I think if I had to say one word of wisdom, I think anybody can grow the gold medal.
Was there any period where you felt like you are not good enough?
Yes, I feel that pretty often nowadays, I guess.
What does your approach to tackling the toughest math problems look like? How did you prepare for the IMO competitions? What's specific strategies or routines or books or documents or resources you use to prepare when training?
Welcome to another episode of our Math Wisdom podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys of exceptional math talents from around the world. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Kim Dong-ryul. With 3 gold medals in the International Mathematical Olympiad, he is the best in the history of South Korea. He was ranked number 2 in the world in 2012, when he led his country to win the IMO for the first time in its history. Almost 10 years later, he came back to the IMO in 2023 as a member of the Problem Selection Committee. We are excited to hear his story, learn from his experiences, and get some insight into how he balances his passion for math with life outside of it.
Danielle or Kim Dong-ryul, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So it's been 12 years since we met in IMO 2013. I remember the Korean team were very friendly and very nice, and I had a lot of good time with you. And I remember I played a lot with Insuji, and we had a good friendship. And the day of the results, I was looking at the ranking of the people, and I realized he won the IMO. He was ranked number 1 in the world. I got so surprised. I thought, oh my God, I know that person. So I went running to him and I asked him, how did you manage to do that? How does it happen that someone gets ranked number 1 in the world? And he said jokingly, I just got lucky. So let's get back to you, Danielle. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your upbringing?
Right now I'm a graduate student, a fourth-year graduate student at Stanford, studying math, particular number theory. Well, I don't know if there's much to say about my upbringing.
I read in an article that your mother noticed your mathematical gift very early on. Could you elaborate on how your parents and early environment nurtured your mathematical abilities? Were they giving you special toys or any mathematical questions, or how did they notice anything special about you?
Well, my father was an engineer, and I think one thing he did was right before bed, instead of telling bedtime stories, he used to try to teach me about fractions or make me solve some mathematical puzzles. I guess I got interested by doing these things. Yeah, I don't really remember exactly when I started to like math or started to have an interest in math. I think I was just too young. All I remember is I always was interested in doing math. I really like learning math. I used to just find math exercise textbooks and try to solve it by myself and so on.
At what age did that start? What type of textbooks were you interested in?
I think it's well, from all I remember, it was at 8 or 9. I tried to solve like the textbooks from higher math curriculum. So like nothing too special.
And nothing too special that 8, 9 years old, you are trying to solve maths from the upper grades. So from there, can you describe your journey to the IMO and how was the selection process like in Korea?
So I think when I was in 3rd grade, I started to uh, participate in the Korean Math Olympiad. There's like a junior version of the Korean Math Olympiad, so I started participating in that. And I think around like grade 5 or 6, I got pretty good at it, and I moved on to the actual non-junior versions of Math Olympiads. So the team selection process is usually there's a national Math Olympiad, and I think it's like currently a lot of things change, but when I was a student, at least, there was a national Math Olympiad, there was a winter training camp, and then another national Olympiad, and then a team selection process. So it's a pretty lengthy process that spans over around a year.
Looking back at your experience participating at a very young age, second of the world, Looking back at all that, what key lessons, both on the mathematical level and on the personal level, did you take away from your IMO years?
Well, it definitely taught me a lot of mathematics, and then from there I was able to get into a career in mathematics. So it was definitely a very helpful for me to have had this experience. I think it also taught me some intangible things about mathematics in general. I mean, sometimes, it really taught me to think deeply about certain mathematical problems. Problem-solving skills, I think, is still very helpful to this day. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I would be doing this if I didn't participate in the IMO. I think my life would have been very different.
You're saying that participating in the IMO crafted the way for you, prepared the way for you to where you are today, and that's what pushed you to do what you're doing right now. So let me get this right. You are a PhD student at Stanford right now, yes? So other than the technical aspects and the skills you gained from mathematics, was there, anything more on the human level, like friendships or maybe another perspective on life?
Well, you definitely learn a lot of things from your friends. So I think it's definitely, one part of being a mathematician or doing mathematics is communicating with other people. It's always very helpful to have friends to talk to, have people you can learn from or try to teach things to people. Those things are always a very important aspect of doing mathematics. Yeah.
So in 2023, in your role on the IMO Problem Selection Committee, what insight did you gain from crafting problems that are both accessible to students but also elegant?
Well, I learned that it's a very, very difficult thing to try and make a problem that's both elegant and accessible. I mean, it's somehow very difficult to write good problems. So I think it's kind of amazing that we can produce a short list that has 30 problems that are all very good, somewhat accessible. Yeah, I don't. Well, I think the problems that are usually elegant and accessible come from some new ideas, but it's a little bit. I mean, I don't think there's that many new ideas that are out there at this point because the Olympiads have been around for such a long time. It was a very challenging task. Well, thankfully, the people who are the, the countries that were sending problems are giving us very good problems. So it's just uh, it's highly successful, I think.
I think that at a certain point you will not have any new ideas.
Well, I would. I think it's just a generally very difficult thing to come up with new ideas, but I'm always amazed that people are able to do that. I don't know what the Olympiad will look like in, I don't know, 50 years or so.
So when we met sorry, when we met at the IMO in 2013, and when the results came out, I went to see Insuji, and I asked him about how does he solve hard problem. Namely, we are talking about P6, and I asked him what his approach is, and he told me, well, he forgets about what the question is, and he's just curious, trying to understand what the problem is about. Because maybe if he has a target in mind, which is the question, he will take paths that will not lead to the solution. But if he's just curious about the problem, trying to understand it, see what's going on, look for some patterns, that's when he might find a solution. Because he will be thinking of ideas that are, innovative, that ideas that are not clear, had he focused on the question itself. So what about you? What does your approach to tackling the toughest math problems look like? Do you agree with this? And if not, how do you think about hard problems?
So is this 2013 problem 6? Is that the one about labeling numbers on a circle and counting the number of configurations? Also, I think that problem, is a really good example of, well, I think this problem is, I think, my favorite problems that I had on the IMO as a student. And it's a really good example of how searching for structures in searching for mathematical structures somehow naturally lead to a solution if you're even if you're not trying to find a solution. So I definitely do agree that your main goal is to understand what's going on rather than to solve the problem itself, which is a little bit paradoxical, but I think really that is the heart of trying to understand what's going on is the heart of solving problems. And so I think it's really really important to understand what's when you're studying, not in necessarily exams, but it's really important to understand sort of why certain methods work, and why certain methods don't work, and try to understand deeply what the meaning of certain mathematical statements are, trying to maybe push them further. I think these are all very important things you should try to do, doing math in general, not just preparing for the competitions.
So say you are presented with a tough problem. Say it's combinatorics. I know you like combinatorics. Do you follow a specific framework or set of techniques? How would you start tackling it?
So I would first try to search for interesting structures that the problem has. So for instance, for this IMO problem, problem 6 in 2013, well, you're presented with a circle and a collection of numbers, and you're trying to, well, you're given a rule for what these numbers satisfy. You look at it and then try to understand where this pattern comes from, and then you realize that somehow it's the structure exactly look like what happens when you try to jump along a circle with a constant distance every time. And then from there, if you sort of make this connection, you can try to, well, at least from this claim, at least this problem statement immediately follows. So then it's very natural to, what you're trying to do becomes very natural. But if you just look at the problem itself, it's kind of unclear what it's trying to do. So I definitely think it's very important to start to understand what's going on in this problem, and maybe not even try to solve the problem, just to try to understand what's going on.
So when you are trying to understand the problem and you stumble upon an aha moment, is it an aha moment more like, oh, this looks familiar, I've seen something like it, I have worked on so many problems that this idea looks familiar to me? Or is it an aha moment of a pure genius, like very original thing that you just found?
Usually, sometimes I get a little bit proud of what I came up with, but it's really rare. It doesn't really happen that often. I think like 95% of the time, it's usually, this is exactly what this other theorem is saying, or something like this nice argument which reduces this problem into like a very trivial thing. And that's usually the aha moment that happens during taking an Olympiad.
And it's usually something that links to something that you already know.
Yes, usually, yeah.
So that's why exposure in mathematics is very important, because when you're exposed to so many ideas, chances are you will reuse them in the future.
Yes, exposure is definitely important, but I think it's also important to understand where things are coming from, because you can't just see a lot of things and pattern match the knowledge of the theorems you have with the problem. Yeah, really have to see that the underlying concept is the same thing, but it still requires you to know what the underlying concept is. That makes sense.
When you say you need to understand where things are coming from, is it more of a feeling that you get, or is it something more on the intellectual level? Like, how do you understand something? How do you know for sure that you know this is where this is coming from? Because, you can read something, understand it, and then later on, you are unable to reuse it again or to reapply the theory because something is missing.
Right. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I don't think I have a very good answer for that. To some extent, I think it is a feeling. To some extent, it is sort of knowing at your heart, having etched something somewhere deep in your heart. It's very it's very difficult to describe what it actually is. But yeah, I do think there is something more to just knowing the statements of lots of theorems. I can't really pinpoint what it is.
I think that's the difference between, knowing something and getting something. It's like when I tell you a joke, if you don't get it by yourself, you will not laugh. But if I explain it to you, now you know it, but you did not get it, so you will not laugh in that case. I think mathematics is like that.
That's a good analogy.
During your preparation, was it more of a spontaneous, techniques that you learned, or was there any secret or strategy or something that you, got taught by somebody else that helped you a lot in your process, or was it just, spontaneously working from one problem to another?
Yeah, I had very good teachers. We had, well, in Korea, there's a lot of sort of private education, which comes in the form of, well, after school, I don't know what to call it, like math camps or something, math clubs, and it's a very fun experience for me. Well, so you go there, you just are given like 10 problems each day, and then you're supposed to solve them. Sometimes they well, make the rules that you have to solve like 7 out of 10 problems before you can leave, or something like that. But you really do, yeah, I think I learned a lot of math during that period, not just from the problems themselves, but also from the friends who were all solving the same problems. It's very attractive to just hear how they think and sort of apply their ideas to my problems and things like that. Yeah, I think it's just I think the important thing is to learn something, you just have to live it. You just have to immerse yourself inside this environment and just live the life of solving math problems.
Do you prefer working with friends, or do you prefer solving problems on your own?
I think it depends a lot. I think you do need to do both because by nature, you have to take an exam by yourself. You can't just always work with a team of other people. But it's really usually pretty fun to solve problems with other people. It's very helpful to see how other people operate. And I was very fortunate to have a lot of other people I can surround myself with. It's very, yeah. I was very fortunate in this regard.
Does it feel for you that when you solve a problem with friends, it feels easier?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, but sometimes you just go on tangents and never actually get to solving the problem. Just end up discussing random things.
Yeah. So when you hit a roadblock, when you are stuck in a problem, how do you decide whether to push through or to seek help or to look for some hints or to ask for help or from a mentor or someone else?
Yeah, I mean, you can't just. I mean, it is always advisable to try to figure it out yourself, but you can't. I mean, it's not practical to solve every problem yourself. So I think it's a good balance. I think maybe like set a timer of 2 hours and decide you're going to look at the solution after 2 hours. Or if a solution is already written out, you can try to maybe see the first half of the solution and then try to do the second half by yourself. Yeah, but I think it really depends on the type of problem you're working on. Yeah, you have to somehow find a good balance.
Do you think it's more advisable to give a certain amount of time to think about the problem, say 2 hours, and then look at solution, or rather keep that problem in your the background in your memory and then keep thinking about it for days, maybe weeks?
Honestly, I think if you've thought about, well, there are some certain problems that you like thinking about. In that case, I think it's fine to think about it for days or weeks. I've done that before. Right now, as a researcher, I'm thinking about the same problem for years. So I think it's definitely a good thing to do these things occasionally. But I think for certain problems, you can also learn by reading the solution and then thinking more about the solution yourself. So yeah, maybe like 30% of the time you can, if you really enjoyed thinking about this problem, you can go on a little bit longer. Not always. I think doing this always is impractical.
So once you read the solution and you realize that this is a new idea or a new theorem or a new strategy, do you note this down? Do you have a some document in which you note down all the ideas or strategies or techniques you used in the IMO?
Quite a long time ago. I don't think I've written down these things carefully, but I did have a folder where I kept solutions of all the problems I was solving, but I don't think I've really had a collection of ideas or a collection of theorems. And especially for ideas, it's a little bit hard to. It's a little bit intangible, so it's hard to write down an idea in its pure form. It's somehow somewhere in the middle of somewhere inside a solution. It's not really an idea by itself.
By the way, I just remembered something from the IMO. So when we met, the first time we met, I asked you about your results, and you told me you got 40 last year, which is 2012, and you lost 2 points on P4. And I will ask the audience, take a moment to guess why he lost 2 points on P4 and got everything else right. A hint: P4 is a functional equation. So you told me that you lost 2 points on P4 because you actually did find the solution, but you did not verify it. Does this version still stand today?
So okay. So here's what happened. I did say the function satisfied the original equation, but it didn't check it explicitly. I didn't actually plug in and check it. So but I did say that it satisfied the solution, the functional equation. But I think I made a typo at the end and wrote something a little bit wrong. So it was a little bit less believable that I actually did the checking part. So I think and for some reason the coordinators didn't believe that I actually checked it, and then I got 2 points off. I think that's a story that I've been told, but I was not at during the coordinations. I don't actually know what happened. Yeah, it's actually I think I am kind of known for it now in the IMO community. So I've had people say, "You're that person who got the 2 points taken off in P4," and apparently I'm used as an educational example for IMO training nowadays, because look at this stupid Korean kid who didn't check their solution and got 2 points off. Anyway, so back to your
Yeah.
back to your
Get back to the question. So once you participated the first time and you got 40 points, you were second in the world. What are your goals next? Like next year, were you under pressure saying that I have to prove that it was not luck? Or were you comfortable saying, okay, I got gold last year, I should get gold this year as well?
I think I was a lot more comfortable in this second years. Well, I didn't feel much pressure, to be honest. I just went there to have fun mostly, I think. And I did have fun. It was a great IMO, I think, 2013.
And the fact that you did not get the same number of points in your second and third IMO, how do you look at that? Do you look at that as like you did not get better, that's why? Or it's like you kept getting better, but you are not lucky enough? How do you see all that?
I think it's I don't think I really cared that much about this scores at that point. I was just well, and I obviously liked solving problems. I still like solving Olympiad problems to some extent. If you don't, I mean, you don't really need to get better scores every year, be a good mathematician or anything. And at that point, I was starting to get more interested in mathematics outside the mathematical Olympiad realm. So I was learning a lot of math that was possibly not related to Olympiad math. Still liked doing Olympiad math, so I still participated, but I didn't really, what did I say? That was not my central focus at the time, I think. Getting better scores at the IMO is not really important thing to me. Yeah, I was very happy with the things I did. And well, my high school friends all teased me for getting lower and lower ranks, but it's still pretty good, I think.
Still go. So among these 3 editions of the IMO, which one stood the most memorable to you, and which moment overall was the most emotional or touching or memorable for you?
Well, I think emotionally, I was very excited after the first day of the 2012 IMO because, well, the first day, number 3, was a very hard combinatorics problem, and I knew I'd solved it, so I thought there was a very good chance that I would also maybe solve all 3 next day. So I had to try really hard to get some sleep that night. So that was one time I was very excited. Well, I was also it also got pretty emotional during at the end of the 2023 IMO after the PSC. I served as PSC member. It was really nice to have it. Running a IMO is also a very amazing
What's
experience.
special about that experience?
I mean, it was kind of a dream as a participant to be able to be part of the event that I participated as a high school student. There's a lot of fun watching how things were run behind the curtains. It's fun to look at all these amazing problems that people have sent in from various countries. And yeah, it was a very fun experience.
You were looking at problems yourself. Were you trying to solve them, or you did not have time, so you were looking at the solution?
I was trying to give at least 1 hour to each problem. There are very difficult problems that I couldn't solve after maybe. Well, sometimes I think I went up to that 2 hours, but there are some very difficult problems. I think they're actually probably public, right? 3 shortlist.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, so I worked with the combinatorics part of the shortlist, and I think I wasn't able to solve anything after C5. Well, C5, C6, C7 I was able to solve.
So how come you took part in the problem selection committee? I mean, how does that take place? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you?
Well, so that year the IMO was held in Japan, and the Japanese sort of IMO organizers, I think, reached out to the Korean IMO team leader. I think they're pretty close to each other, and I got a recommendation from my IMO team leader, and then that happened that way.
Let's go back to our question. How did you prepare for the IMO competitions? What's the specific strategies or routines or books or documents or resources you use to prepare when training?
Right, so I think there are two main resources. First, you still have to sort of learn the basic tools. Like you need to know what the pigeonhole principle is. I don't know. You need to know what an orthocenter is. You need to know like certain things. For that, I believe there's lots of standard textbooks. I don't know I think nowadays there are lots and lots of textbooks I just look at. But I think the harder thing is to about what you do afterwards. Like once you've learned all these standard things, like how do you actually get better at solving problems? I think you just have to go and solve problems. I think there's no easy way to doing that. So I usually just looked at problems from various contests. There's a huge database of IMO shortlist problems. There's also various national Olympiads that have very high quality problems, like Iranian Math Olympiad, US, the American. There's also some Russian Olympiads that I really liked solving. I think Chinese Math Olympiad is also pretty good. And after that, I think you just go on, artofproblemsolving.com and go to the contest tabs and just solve the problems you see there. I think that's sort of the only way.
I think that there is a gap between understanding the basics, learning from standard math textbooks, and then going to solve, shortlists. So there's a huge gap there.
Yes, yeah.
How would you fill it in? Would you say that you were lucky because you were in Korea and there were enough mentors and documents given to you? Or did you go on the internet by yourself and you were looking for some way to fill in this gap?
Well, I was definitely lucky. I still think you can do this without having mentors to some extent. I mean, definitely if you look at the IMO shortlist and the textbooks, there is a gap, but there are also lots of easier contests you can look at. For instance, in my case, I was participating in the Junior Korean Math Olympiad, which was targeted for people from grades 7 to 9. So these problems are generally a lot easier, and I could just uh, I don't think a lot. Well, I don't think a lot of these problems really require you to have a lot of experience besides knowing the basic things. But the IMO shortlist, there's also sort of the easier parts of the IMO shortlist. I think is somewhat accessible to people who've just learned the basics in general. Well, there's the space of problems is, I think, broad enough that you can slowly start with the easier ones and gradually climb up to more difficult ones. But it does take a lot of time.
Do you recommend? Do you recommend a specific book?
Well, even if I do have a specific book in mind, I don't think there'll be I feel like it'll be very outdated at this point because when I was a student, it was at least it was almost 15 years ago. Well, one book I really liked was Problem-Solving Strategies by Engel, I think. It was a pretty good book. I enjoyed reading. It also had a lot of like exercises you could do. So that was a really good book. Is there any other book I even remember? I don't even remember that many books.
Any specific website or platform?
Oh, I think Art of Problem Solving is a great website. Should definitely go on. Not sponsored, but
So some believe that mathematical ability is innate, while others emphasize hard work and practice. What is your perspective on the roles of innate talent versus effort in achieving mathematical excellence?
I definitely think there's a lot of effort involved. But I don't know how. I think you need maybe some tendency to enjoy doing mathematics. But after that, I think it's a lot of effort involved in getting good at math. And I think it's the hardest thing is to get yourself maybe hooked onto math. And once you really start to enjoy doing math and solving math problems, then it is effort, but it is effortless because you just like doing it. And you just want to solve more problems at some point.
What hooked you on math?
I don't really know. Well, it's definitely very satisfying when you solve a problem. I think nobody would argue with that. But there's also a lot of joy in gaining some understanding what is happening. Yeah, I don't really know what got me so hooked on math, but it did happen, and I'm very glad.
Does it feel like an addiction in a way that you solve a hard problem, you get a good dose of dopamine, you feel happy, and then you need to go to that feeling again. Otherwise, you feel miserable.
I don't know. I think there is certainly some amount of dopamine that is comes out. I don't know. I've never really had to stop doing math. So I don't really. I think it's not an addiction in the sense that I think I'll be fine without this dopamine. Well, in some sense, in my current life, I don't have that much dopamine because the problems are just a lot harder, and I don't have that many moments where I get excited about solving anything. I think if it is an addiction, it's a very healthy one.
Absolutely. Was there any period where you felt like you are not good enough? Did you have the imposter syndrome and you felt like I should quit or I'm not good enough or other people are smarter than me?
Oh, yes, I feel that pretty often nowadays, I guess. Well, I think I used to feel this a lot during the early days of my graduate school, and well, people understand a lot of things a lot better than I do. Nowadays, I guess it's a little bit less. I feel like in theory, you can probably understand anything that if you want to invest that much energy and time into it. It's just that sometimes, well, you have your own thing and you can't do everything that you can possibly do. I feel a little bit less nowadays, but I definitely used to feel that way a few years back.
Are you saying that even after winning 3 gold medals, you still had that feeling?
Yes. Well, yes. Well, I guess the math, the sort of the research math, so to speak, is pretty different from the math I see in Olympiads. I did have this feeling. I think I'm fairly comfortable with the Olympiad style sort of elementary math, but I was not still learning a lot of number theory, a lot of algebra and geometry, and so on. That area, that period for me was a little bit difficult. Now I think I'm
Period exactly?
yeah. Sorry?
Which period was that?
Oh, that period, I think it was like mostly second, third year of being around it. I think I'm slowly climbing out of it now that I'm a fourth year. And I'm also starting to realize that maybe other people also don't understand it completely well as I imagined at the beginning. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think humanity doesn't understand, and so maybe I didn't sort of see this early on.
So how did you deal with that feeling?
I guess I mostly ignored it, or you just have to do what you got to do.
No.
So you just like
Any signs?
yes, I was just mostly focused on, well, I was just trying to learn as much as possible. Just focusing on learning and rather than, well, looking at what other people are doing. I think that's sort of the right way to deal with it. Yeah, not too much comparing with other people is generally a very healthy thing to do.
After all, you don't know what the other person knows. On the surface, he might look like he knows more than you, but actually when you dig deeper, you realize that it's not what you thought. So I'm absolutely agreed. I think comparing yourself to others steals your joy. And that's pretty interesting, but because once you prove to the world that you are smart enough and very good at mathematics, you should not go through that feeling again. But the more I interview people, I realize that it's more common than people think. The feeling that you are not smart enough, the feeling that other people are better than you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just well, in human nature to feel this way to some extent. It's anybody really escapes this feeling completely, unless you're completely narcissistic and think you're.
When you are feeling down like that, do you have any routines like journaling, meditation, working out to get your head off of that?
Well, not really. Well, I just try to not think about it. That's all I did. There are probably better ways of dealing with it, but I just don't. I don't use anything.
So you go into, so you just work harder to feel better about yourself.
Yes. I just try to actually improve myself.
So when you see someone that you think is better than you on something, does that motivate you to work harder?
I think not really, and I think it's a little bit dangerous to use that as a motivation for improving yourself. I mean, I don't think your goal should be to be better than some other particular person. It's not. Yeah, I don't think that's really a thing I was doing or would consider.
Absolutely. I think if you're comparing yourself to someone, you should compare yourself to your past self and just keep track of your improvement and progress. So let's go back to your IMO days. What did the day in your life look like during IMO?
During the trainings.
Yeah, during the trainings. Yeah.
Well, I did have to go to school, so I take classes and do the homeworks. Well, I guess fortunately, I made the IMO team when I was a first year in high school. So it's in Korea that should be like 10th grade. So which is like the start of high school. So I didn't have to deal with going to high school and preparing for the IMO that much. But okay, during middle school, I was just mostly, I would just go to school, come back from school to home, go to one of these sort of math camps, math clubs, stay there for like 5 hours a day, I think, and just to solve math problems. On the weekends, I would I think I still mostly did math during the weekends. I somehow tried to do all the homeworks quickly as possible and then focus on math, I think.
What do training camps look like in South Korea?
So there's a winter training camp. I don't know if it still exists, but that was like a intensive 2-week camp where, like there's basically a problem session every day for maybe 6 hours, and you get to solve these problems. After the team selection process, and when you have an actual team, there's also like a 1-month period where you basically do a very similar thing, but you only have these 6 people who made the team. There's a lot of math problem solving. There's a lot of hard games that people just play to have fun. It's a lot of
Hard games like what?
I don't think it's an internationally known game, but there's this current card game called it's called Mighty, and I think it's sort of a tradition for the Math Olympiad people to play this game, so that I think even the professors know the rules of it. They also play with their students. So that was played a lot. There's a lot of ordering food from, and like ordering Chinese food, for instance. It's a big thing during the camp. It was a very fun time.
I mean, you were eating a lot.
Yes, we're eating a lot. We're using a lot of our brains, solving problems. So that's also a very fun thing to do.
So talking about food, is there any specific diet that you feel helps your performance in mathematics?
I don't think there's any. Well, just healthy in general. I don't think there's any math diet.
So during all the points we just mentioned, to the person listening right now, what advice can you give him that will boost his problem-solving skills?
I think one thing I want to mention is that you don't choose what problem you get on the exam. I think you shouldn't try to just solve any problem that is given to you. Just don't try to select the problems that you like thinking about, because I think it's especially if you study on your own, you sort of develop this tendency to just study a particular subject or study particular type of problems. It's not necessarily bad, but I think at least to perform well in competitions, you do need to learn how to be well-rounded in terms of subjects, in terms of math problems. So I think it's important to try and solve anything that's given to you. If you just follow in the National Olympiad, for instance, you can just try to solve every single problem and not to select the ones you want to solve. That's, I think, a pretty important thing to consider.
We'll talk about another mention North Korea. I remember I met them personally in 2013, but we could not communicate actually because they don't speak English. So I was wondering, do you speak the same language? Do you communicate on the IMO? How is the relationship between both of the teams, or are you prohibited to talk to one another?
We talk to each other. We do speak the same language, but it feels more like a dialect. So we are able to communicate with each other, but certain words are a bit funny, for instance. I think two teams have pretty good relations in general sometimes. Well, but obviously we don't talk about political issues or geopolitical issues. Well, obviously we don't talk about geopolitical issues during
the thing that is actually unfortunate is that they don't come to every IMO. By the way, do you know why they did not come in the recent years?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know.
Did you hear about the guy who escaped North Korea through the IMO?
Yes, I realized.
I realized, yeah, Actually, I met him in 2013. We could not talk. I remember him because he was big, and we actually played ping pong. And he was so good. He beat me very hard, like you did, by the way. And then I heard in 2016 he actually did escape North Korea. So now he's I think in South Korea. I was looking for his contact to interview him as well. Do you have any idea if I can find him or I can have any contact?
I don't know.
So, reflecting on your journey, what personal or professional lessons did you learn? Or is there anything or a word of wisdom that you have learned from your past experiences in the IMO, whether as a contestant or as a member of the problem selection committee, but also today going through a PhD at Stanford?
I think if I had to say one word of wisdom, it's that you should always double check your functional equation and make sure the solution actually satisfies the equation. That is the one thing I could say. But more seriously, I don't really know. I'm still very much in the middle of this journey. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's maybe for high school students, I might look like somebody who's already figured out what I'm doing with my life, but I'm just a graduate student still trying to figure out what's going on.
Indeed, I mean, for high school students, you look like the perfect example. And looking at what you have achieved so far, people are wondering which habits. I mean, what is his secret? How did he come to this level? Or is it just innate? You're born like that. You're born a gold medalist, if I might say. So, do you have any habits or mindset that you think are essential for success? Do you think that in your case, it's mostly innate intelligence, or do you think that your hard work is the like 90%? You give credit to your hard work as if it's the most important thing.
I tend to believe that, well, at least in terms of mathematics, I think maybe in other parts of life it could be different, but at least in terms of mathematics, there are no easy shortcuts. And I think that's a a good mindset to have if you're trying to learn. And also if you're trying to solve problems, there's no if there's a difficult problem, there's no easy trick that somehow reduces your problem to something completely trivial. You still have to put in the amount of work you need to put into a problem is always preserved. So I think you just have to, I think it's important to accept that there is a lot of work that goes into becoming good at math, and try not to, I don't know, profit from some easy things you might think is possible, because it's usually not going to. Yeah, there's not going to be an easy route.
First thing, there is no shortcut. The road to success is the boring road, and
I think it is.
I mean, the person who wants to, he has to take that. So, in your specific case, how much would you attribute to hard work, and how much would you attribute to intelligence?
I don't think it's very good to separate these two things, because intelligence comes from hard work in some sense. There are people who, well, I don't think people are born with intelligence. There's some sense cultivating intelligence.
Are you saying that if you take an average student and you give them your ideas, techniques, way of solving problems, well, I have no doubt he will improve. But do you think he might get to a gold medal at the IMO?
I mean, if I think anybody can go to gold medal, let's say, put in the same amount of work. But of course, you need the time to put in the work, which is always not the same for everybody. But if you do put in the same amount of work in math Olympiads, I think I think anybody can get a gold medal. Just that's not a very easy thing to do.
The amount of work, talking about, how many hours are we talking about a day?
I don't want to really give a concrete number. I'm pretty sure when I was really preparing hard for the competitions, I was doing maybe like 6 hours of math a day on average or something like that.
So previously in an article in 2012, you said that you want to win the Nobel Prize in mathematics. Do you still aspire to honors like the field medal, or
No, not really.
you did not say that? Okay, I will go back to the article.
I don't remember what I said, but I don't sort of think. Well, that is definitely not my goal now. I might have said that. I don't remember, but it's
I was looking at the link.
okay. Okay, I'm getting exposed. I guess.
So in 2012, you were how old were you?
I was 15, say 16, 2012.
Okay, cool. Is there any activity or something else that you do for fun outside of mathematics?
Not really. What do I do for fun? I don't know. Watch random videos.
What is your favorite show?
I like sort of how do I say this? Like software development and like programming a lot to some extent. So I sometimes do these things. Well, and it's not anything to make public, but I just like programming.
You like any show on TV or do you read books or something like that?
No, I don't really read books nowadays. I also don't really watch TV nowadays.
Do you do sports?
No, I guess table tennis is my favorite sport, but I don't do this like anymore.
Ping pong, you said?
Yeah. I think if I had to pick one sport that I like the most, it is ping pong. But I'm not very well. Yeah, I don't do it anymore.
Well, then I might have a chance that you might take my revenge. Well, thank you so much for this interview. Once again, this is a great pleasure. Thank you for accepting to come to this podcast. And it's been a very nice talk with you. Thank you so much.
It's a great interview. Thank you.